Welcome to this special program on business relations between the United Arab Emirates and South Africa. The two countries recently celebrated 30 years of bilateral relations at a gathering in Pretoria. It's a partnership that was forged in 1994 after former President Nelson Mandela visited the UAE and met with the founder and president of the UAE, the late Sheikh Zayed Al Nahyan. Business Day TV attended the gathering, and the afternoon panel discussion focused on business, government, and trade leaders of both countries unpacking the possibilities to, as they said, triple the almost $8 billion annual value of trade between the two countries across sectors like energy, agriculture, technology, and education. Let's take a look.
Let me start by appreciating you, Your Excellency, for this event. I think it really marks an important occasion, given the warm and sound relations that South Africa and the UAE have since 1994. So the 30 years of celebrating this relationship is an important milestone. The relationship has really focused on, as indicated by the theme, looking at how we can enhance and strengthen our trade and investment relations. The UAE is our biggest export market in the Gulf region. The trade has been growing. It has quadrupled over the last 10 years, from 30 billion rands to 120 billion rands in 2023. The trade has been diverse, and we export especially value-added products from South African side. Of course, if we look at the last year, 2023, we had a trade deficit with the UAE amounting to 27 billion rands. So there's a lot that we need to do to ensure that we have balanced trade relations. However, when it comes to value-added trade or value-added products, we enjoyed a surplus as South Africa on those products. We are also looking to increase our agricultural trade, and this has been absolutely growing and doing phenomenally. You've heard about the market access for beef. We also have market access for poultry, and we are working on a number of products in terms of agricultural trade that we are trying to negotiate with the UAE, and our Department of Agriculture is handling that for us, supported, of course, by the DTIC. We also enjoy very good investment relations, and you would have heard from the last panel where we have mutually beneficial investment relations. Our investments into the UAE amount to $500 million in a number of sectors, including healthcare, IT services, business services, space and defense, machinery and equipment, oil and gas, but also coal. On the other hand, the UAE, of course, has been investing in the South African economy, $22.9 billion over the last 10 years. And the key sectors for investment has been real estate as well as renewable energy. And of course, as part of our decarbonization process of decarbonizing our supply chains, the investments into the renewable sector is a much welcomed effort. But also in the services sector, including the logistics, as you would have heard from DP World. So the trade and investment relations have been quite healthy, growing, but also I think it's important to emphasize that much more needs to be done. And these trade and investment relations have contributed in terms of job creation on both sides. But also what we have appreciated is the fact that the UAE has been active participant in the President's Investment Conference. And of course, we're looking for more investments and investment pledges, but not only investment pledges, actual investments into the manufacturing sector of South Africa. So if we look at the assessment of the trade and investment relations over the last 30 years, we've seen the UAE becoming a lucrative market for South African exports. But also from an investment side, as I've said, investments by South African companies in a number of sectors in the UAE. Now, when we look at the future, and I think a number of issues have been raised this afternoon, including potential areas of cooperation. Of course, we have a new government under the 7th administration. The key priorities for the government, and I think Stavros has actually touched on some of these issues, has been about ensuring that we promote inclusive growth. Industrialization is at the core of that. And we are also looking, and especially given the youthful population that we have, including the fact that we have high levels of unemployment, job creation is absolutely fundamental. So what this requires is for us to focus on an export-led industrialization. And for that to happen, we need investments. Investments into the manufacturing sector, investments into infrastructure to deal with the binding constraints that constrain economic growth. And the relations that we have with the UAE have been centered around that, to look at how we can mobilize investments into South Africa's productive sector. What is going to be important is to identify a number of sectors that you can work on, where we can further deepen the relations. The digital economy is one. The decarbonization value chain is another. And maybe to respond to also the issue that was raised around the fact that we export primary products and import value-added products. The 7th administration is quite decisive in emphasizing the importance of beneficiation of our resources at source. And this would mean that we need to attract investments, including from the UAE sovereign wealth funds, in terms of beneficiation of the critical minerals. And we have identified the decarbonization value chain from the minerals up to recycling as the opportunity that we need to leverage. We have a number of critical minerals in South Africa, but also not only in South Africa, across the region. There's an opportunity to develop batteries for the electric vehicles. We are currently looking into the EV production, electric vehicle production in South Africa. We are looking into the active material that goes into the battery being produced in South Africa, including the cells that go into those batteries being produced in South Africa. So the whole value chain, starting from the minerals up to recycling. So that presents huge opportunities for us to collaborate. We're looking at the digitalization value chain. And again, there are lessons to be learned from both sides, leveraging the capabilities that we have. Another important value chain for collaboration, as I said, is the infrastructure and logistics value chain. And we have a number of corridors within South Africa, but also linking to the continent so that we unlock the AfCFTA market. In addition, we have a number of special economic zones, as well as industrial development zones. And of course, with the work that the UAE also does in terms of free zones, this is an important area of collaboration, including identifying key companies from the UAE that can be anchor companies for these special economic zones, as well as the IDZ.
DP World acquired Imperial, all of its assets in South Africa and abroad, and we now trade as DP World. And traditionally, DP World has been a ports company. That's where it started, in Dubai and Jebel Ali. And with the acquisition of landside logistics capabilities, it actually made me realize one of the key learnings which I've taken out of the brief, where as a logistics company, you typically would want to talk about an end-to-end logistics offering that you can give to your customers. And the reality of it is we probably use that term relatively. When DP World acquired landside logistics in Africa, Imperial Logistics in particular, but also other landside logistics organizations across the globe in the APAC regions, Europe and the Americas, we now truly can manage what we call from factory floor to customer door. So what we now find ourselves in terms of some of the key learnings since we've had this investment and this acquisition of Imperial from DP World globally is that we now look at the supply chain a lot differently. There are a lot of key learnings which go broader than just the capabilities that we've managed to include, such as the ports, which is something we never really had control of or even visibility of, the shipping lines through our Unifeeder acquisition, and then landside logistics at ports of origin or destination outside of the ports in sort of South Africa and even the broader Africa. For DP World, I think Africa is arguably the biggest growth opportunity across all of its regions. It's at the moment, as we stand, the largest region within the DP World group, Sub-Saharan Africa in particular. We manage ports all along the east coast of Africa, North Africa, and Egypt, as well as the west coast, and we're constantly investing into those ports. Over the last 3 years, we've invested about $3 billion US dollars, and we look to probably invest another $3 billion over the next coming years, not exclusively in ports, but essentially in enabling logistics capabilities in the form of warehousing. You spoke about cold storage. Those are some of the capabilities we'll look to develop, as well as free trade zones, logistics parks, etc. I think when I think about what the future holds in terms of DP World's investment into South Africa, I think we probably have to look broader as well as Africa as a key enabler in terms of facilitating intra-Africa trade, but also connecting the world to Africa. And that's a key strategic project for us as DP World, where we're looking to facilitate and enable those trade lanes Noah just mentioned. We're looking at key trade lanes, but we're also looking at how we can reduce cost, increase efficiencies, and build capability, not only on the sea side, but the land side as well, through key trade corridors within the continent. We've engaged extensively with the AFTA agreement, and we're looking to actually enable a lot of what sort of benefits we could get out of that. But in a nutshell, I think I probably just want to give you an introduction as to what it is we do, some of the learnings we've had from our DP World acquisition, as well as what we have going towards the future.
As a business person, what do I look for when I go into a country, either to invest or to trade? There are a couple of things. One, is the country politically stable? I can say unequivocally UAE is politically stable. Number two, does it have a good legal systems, good regulatory frameworks? UAE is particularly strong on intellectual property. That's really important for my business. And I can say again that there is strong rule of law, there's strong regulatory frameworks, and there are good systems and processes in place. So good that, in fact, around 3 weeks ago, I called up the ambassador and I said, Ambassador, we are starting a second company. We need to register a second company in Dubai, and we're worried it's going to take 6-8 weeks. And he said to me, my brother, he says, if you deliver the papers today, I will do it in 30 minutes. Okay? And he was wrong, because it took 26 minutes. Okay. Okay. So I think we're very happy from that point of view, and I'm looking at this as an investor. Growing population, strong economy, growing economy, and for my business in pharmaceuticals, there is an increasing demand for pharmaceuticals. So those are all positive stories. I don't have a lot of negative things to say, to be honest with you. The only thing that does worry us, of course, is it is quite a fragmented market, because you've got Dubai and you've got Abu Dhabi. So there's a bit of duplication with processes, logistically and otherwise. I would have to say, if I got to look at all the I've given you many of the upsides. If I got to look at any of the downsides, that would probably be the biggest downside, is that aspect. So it does add to your logistic costs. It adds to the administrative burden. Now, let me talk a little about our business in the UAE. So Aspen, as I said earlier, is a pharmaceutical company. We're proudly South African. We have our origins and genesis in South Africa. We're a 25-year-old company, and in that 25-year space, we've been able to grow our global footprint significantly, to the extent that we are now in 62 countries around the world. UAE is one of those countries. UAE is the hub, not only for Middle East, but what we call the MENA region. So Maghreb, Middle East, obviously a strong focus on GCC. That is exactly where we are footprinted right now. So you got to pose for the photographers these days as well. Okay. I hope it was a good shot. At least, Ambassador, I don't have to worry if my hair is in place, right? So it is the hub for us. We, of course, sell our products. What products have we got? We've got anesthetics. These are life-saving products that we sell, and patients in the UAE benefit from these products. They're anesthetics. There's some oncology products. There's some analgesic products. And there's some anticoagulant products. They're all very important products. A mix of hospital setting products and even some what we would call primary care pharmacy products as well. It's a combination of the two. We intend growing our business there. We intend introducing over-the-counter products and expanding our portfolio and our pipeline as we move along. So our business, how big is it in the UAE? It's around 180 million rand. That's the revenue, more or less. But that's not where the UAE starts and ends for us, because we employ more than 50 people there. As I said, it is the regional hub for Aspen. So we import into the UAE for the region, and then we export out into the surrounding neighboring territories. The total value of what gets exported out again after importation is around $85 million, more or less. So that's the sort of the size of the regional business, more or less. What has our experience being in that importation and exportation? It's a very efficient hub, logistically sound. As I said, the fragmentation increases the cost a little, but the experience is a good one from that perspective.
So we want to utilize these trade routes to be able to support SMEs in that particular value chain. Now, what's been happening is that from the 9,000 farmers that has been identified, only 10 are able to supply internationally based on the current standards. So there's a lot of capacity and support that's also required in terms of developing this particular value chain just on beef. And that's the challenges that often we get, okay, fine, what are you doing for SMEs? But there's a huge problem in terms of complying to supply to international markets that we need to solve first before we can even tap into these instruments that the UAE has set up through WLP and other institutions. So that's just one of the programs we're doing, and part of the challenges we are facing as an enabler, utilizing the relationship that South Africa has with the UAE. Secondly, one of the panelists before also mentioned the AIM Congress that's happening. It normally happens around about May. So the next AIM Congress will be happening between the 7th and 9th of April in 2025. Again, as the SME Chamber of Commerce, we have an MOU with the AIM Congress for the next 5 years to support SMEs to go and exhibit in the UAE at the AIM Congress in Abu Dhabi. So we should start sending out invitations. We're finalizing the logistics regarding that trade mission, but again, that's a 2025 initiative that we're working on. In June this year, as mentioned by Dr. Sally earlier, we signed the MOU with the UAE Chambers. Also, Secretary General also mentioned about that. So our initial plan was to actually take our first mission to the UAE for the Sharjah Investment Conference, because often, Ambassador, what happens is that when people think about UAE, they think Abu Dhabi, they think Dubai. They forget there's Sharjah, they forget there's Ras Al Khaimah, they forget there's other opportunities there. And in our view, where SMEs can actually come in, and even investors from Africa, is that there's investment, you're going to be paying a premium investing in Dubai, maybe in Abu Dhabi, but there's a opportunity to invest in Ras Al Khaimah, there's an opportunity to invest even in Sharjah, or even engage those companies outside to come this side. So we shouldn't only look at UAE and think Abu Dhabi or think Dubai. You know, there's other Emirates within that. Oh, look at David is looking like, no, definitely Dubai. Mr. David Ellsworth, Dubai Chamber, so, you know, I get it. I'd want that. But there is that other opportunity to look at all the other Emirates within the UAE, look at specifically what is their need, you know, that they're looking for. Sharjah, I love it because, again, the history of the UAE lives there. It's been an emirate that's been around for 5,000 years. They've got a 5,000-year history, you know, so a lot of that, there's a tourism potential. So those that are in the tourism industry is another way to say, okay, fine, how do we get people-to-people relations? Instead of just only doing trips to Dubai, how do you position your tourism company to look at different places that people have not necessarily looked at, like I mentioned, Sharjah?
Our future in South Africa cannot be complete if we do not develop infrastructure as a way of pursuing restorative justice. We need infrastructure as a means towards the realization of human rights. By human rights, I'm not talking about first, second, third, fourth, and fifth generation, the right to Wi-Fi and so on. Stated in its most basic terms, human rights is to be born, to live, to die, a life devoid of humiliation. That's human rights. Never mind about free air and all those things. All we want as Africans is the right to rights, Your Excellency.
What I'm looking here, I'm not looking for to compare. I'm looking to how we go to UAE and see how UAE reach when they reach now. We have 200 nationalities. And one of them is a state, it is in Latin America called Belize. The total number of this living with us is 100. Now, when they go to the immigration to print their ID, they ask him in the counter, where are you from? He said, from Belize. He said, no, I'm not asking you a question, I'm asking from where. He said, I'm Belize. Then you find him. We have only 100. Today we have 2,000. What I want to say, I think a lot of challenges here, if you accept me with all this time I am in South Africa, that we need to put everything in the right way. If the security is not there, if it's the electrical not there, if it is the airlines, we fly in your airlines in 1989. We came, 79. We fly from Abu Dhabi to Europe, to Johannesburg. We take 23 hours from house. Your airlines was marked in British, Germany, Pacific, and even better than United. Or, you know, that time also there is a number of airlines. What you expect me in this room as a friend, we need security, we need trust, we need governance. I'm not talking about my leadership here, but I'm talking, which is okay, I am here in the embassy. in the General Africa, I look to your leadership as my leadership. If it is this, not here now, no security, no justice, I believe they will say take somebody crime, but if you look to your sometime, we need to go to UAE and start with the governance system. As in university, you talk about the governance. Governance is not just one-man show, should be second. Today, we believe the new national government, it is a good step. We see a lot of engagement, but if we continue compare, but today UAE, maybe tomorrow, my friend, you find Saudi Arabia, we put a lot of trust in them and they're booming. We said, no, we'll change. We go to Saudi Arabia. No, there is a lot of initiative in UAE, which is believed this is when we are today. Tolerance, accept the others, no differences between people in the law, in the court, in the traffic, and so on and so on. And one point is important, doesn't mean rich, have to be number one. doesn't mean to be a minister is number one. In our country, minister driving his car, no security because of security. No, he's not allowed to put security. His Highness, the President himself, they drive with his, any business, he will put security with him, but he will stop in the traffic. No 100 will cross the red or closing so and so. Second, he himself, he go for every 1 hour for anybody pass away, either from normal people or rich, whatever, and he greet them and he stay with them for a while. All this bring the leadership to the heart of the people. But what we see today, we work 100 miles, we come back 300 miles. We negotiate with UNISA, some of the leaders in this room, for 2 years to open a branch in Abu Dhabi. One of the leadership said, we are not selling our countries. Oh, sorry, our university. When I speak with the professors, and I said, Mahash, because he don't need to move from the seat. He need to be that when he's. Second, we discuss SA, which is today is the most important to be fixed because we need them to fly and contribute the benefit between them and our airlines.
That was our special look at 30 years of bilateral relations in trade and economics between South Africa and the UAE, as celebrated by a gathering of business and economic leaders in Pretoria recently. I'm Gary Alfonso, and you're watching Business Day TV.